started to develop surface decoration that was a little bit more internally based. And I needed to find some way of working with ceramics that I didn't know yet. I mean, I wanted to do something I knew. I didn't want to be totally out of the woods, yes? But I needed to figure out some other way of making marks and getting surface on imagery that was out of my comfort zone. And I needed to pause and try to figure out how to do this. So I looked around, and I knew that Paul Lewing was really the best China painter today that I knew of. Or really, I thought ever, honestly. There you go. Because Paul, there's China painting, sort of this world over here, and then there's contemporary art. There's not that many bridges in between. Paul's one of the few bridges. So I thought, well, I'm going to take a class with Paul. So I actually wrote a grant to take a class with Paul, and then lo and behold, because of some unseen circumstances, we ended up teaching the class together. And how lucky was that? Because I got to see all of these demonstrations about how to use China paint. And I got to, since I was co-teaching, I got to be like right there, right? You get to see everything. But what I loved so much was the openness of bringing all of these techniques into a field which hasn't really experienced it very often. China painting is one of the few things in ceramics which isn't like kind of overdone. Like now we see slip casting all the time, gold luster everywhere, jiggering, you know, like everything in ceramics is like kind of more and then more and then more. And China painting is one of the last vestibules that still has a real sense of uniqueness and identity and mystery to it. You know, I think it's really fabulous. So I was so excited when Paul told me that he was a distinguished alumni of the University of Montana. How cool is that? The place where we call home. And that he actually did his graduate work in this building when it still had a ground floor. Yes. So today, everywhere we went, he said, yeah, that wall wasn't there. That building wasn't there. And I got to see the campus through Paul's eyes, which I thought was really fabulous. And as part of being a distinguished alumni, which you get if you're fucking awesome, he got a break. Paul got a break. So we're going to go see Paul Williamsburg later. But I'm so thrilled to have my new friend here. Paul and I have recently become friends, and I'm just so delighted to have him to our fabulous campus and to know that our school is the same school that he came from. Do you know that we're from somewhere that has deep roots? That feels really good. We stand on the shoulders of giants, right? It's fabulous. And we stop listening, have a giant here today. Paul wrote the book. I mean, he actually wrote the book on China painting. I'm not using that metaphorically. I'm using that seriously. That he wrote the book on China painting that you can actually understand when you read it. And that it's not a Xerox copy from 80 years ago. Do you know? It's a pretty fabulous, wonderful book, and it's floating around somewhere here in the studio. Paul Lewing has always been involved with the arts. Started painting, oil painting when he was 8. Wow, that's tough to do. And he attended the University of Montana initially as a painter. And then here we go. Let's bring that book around.
I need a slide different.
So this is the book. It's not a book. It's a the book with a capital T. And look, he's on the background in case you don't believe me. There's a book. So you know that I'm not lying, which I am occasionally prone to do. So anyway, he started painting when he was 8, and he attended the University of Montana for his undergraduate BFA and also his graduate work. And started to work initially came in painting, and this can happen, as some of you know, that you start working in the ceramic studio and suddenly you talk to buyers, you become late, and then you are a clay major. So that's really what happened with Paul, and he became a potter. And for many years he made his living as a production potter, as a studio potter, and was very well known for his expressive brushwork on his pots, which very quickly you could see translated brushworks on pots could translate into brushwork on tile. And then started really working with China painting on tiles, and became really the expert on China painting on tiles, especially in where you would take orders. So Paul would say, somebody would say, I need something from back, and Paul would go over and look and really bring art into homes. To really bring art into homes in a way that was really accessible and very desired. So Paul went to Seattle, became a potter and painting, China painter, and he's known for his diversity imagery and styles, and I kept saying in techniques. I had no idea there were so many techniques. I thought China painting was like powder or something and a brush. It was much more complicated than that, hence 150 pages. And he's a real master of surface decoration, and has been in many publications, including Clay Times, Ceramics Monthly, Studio Potter, all of the sort of publications. He's also very involved in SICA, and he's taught workshops in almost every state of the union.
Every state.
Every state? You have a seat?
I do.
She's
one shot.
I'm shy, I gotta go to Mississippi. But maybe not now. Maybe I have to wait. Anyways, just shy. And so he's done a workshop in every state of the union, and he has worked in museums, and the mayor of Seattle gave one of Paul's tiles to the King of Sweden and Queen of Denmark. Which is pretty awesome accolades. Could we please welcome my dear friend?
This was an abandoned ice skating rink for the 4 years that I made pots in a little World War I Army barracks. It was right outside there. It was where the parking lot and the playground is now. And it was so crappy that the first class I walked into at 18 years old, a freshman, I walked in and thought, this cannot possibly be a university classroom. And I walked out and walked around for a while with my campus map. It's not yet. But I got seduced by clay. I switched for a number of reasons. One was, of course, Rudy Audio, one of the most universally loved people I've ever known in my life. And it took me a couple of years to realize that I had just stumbled into this amazing situation. I kind of liken it to if you signed up for beginning glass blowing and your teacher turned out to be Dale Chihuly, only he was a nice guy. But, you know, I got seduced by the chemistry, I got seduced by the fire, I got, you know, seduced by what throwing feels like. I decided it would be easier to make a living making pots than it was painting. And I was always focused on making a living at this. And since I've gotten this award, I've actually talked to a few people who were here when I was here, who I've invited to some of the things, and I'm like, who, me? I mean, I remember being in school and thinking, I wasn't really focused on much but riding horses and chasing girls and drinking beer and fishing and this kind of stuff. And everybody I talked to said, oh no. We always knew that if there was one of us around who was going to do it, it was going to be you, because you didn't have a plan B. And, so these days, like when I have students who say they want to be a professional artist or something, one of the things I always ask them is, if that doesn't work, what are you going to do? And if they have an answer to that question, I say, that's what you should do. The ones who are going to make it are the ones who just go, I don't know. So I was one of those people. I did not have plan B. And also the other thing that seduced me about it was the community of clay artists is like no other community I've ever known. The potters, we were all stuck down here away from everybody else, and the potters took everything in the world seriously except themselves. And they were the best cooks, because potters tend to be really good cooks. And they were having the best parties, they had the best drugs. This was they were just having a ball. And, you know, they were way more fun to hang out with than anybody else. So I switched. And the other benefit is I actually met my wife in this building. She came here to study ceramics with Rudy. And we had our first date 48 years ago last Saturday. And we've been basically inseparable since. And as I told the class this morning, guys, if you wait till I finish these glaze tests, I'll buy you a beer. Actually turned out to work as a pickup. And she said, well, I'll have to go back and change my clothes because I'm covered with clay. And I said, no, you don't. I know a bar we can go to where everyone will be covered with clay or ink or paint. And that was Eddie's Club, which is now Charlie's. That's where we went on our first date. So anyway, so yeah, it's been really nice to be back on campus. I had such a wonderful time here. So I always wanted to be an artist. This is a drawing of mine from 3rd grade. And this is the only other thing I've ever done for money, is I was a mule packer in Bob for 3 summers and 1 fall. And I learned how to pack mules in a class for 1 PE credit at the University of Montana. So when I went off to college, I wanted to be Thomas Moran. And I still wouldn't mind being Thomas Moran, but these 2 guys came into my life. And Rudy was not making that stuff when I was in school here. That came later. When I was in school here and Rudy was teaching here, he was drinking as a full-time job. And I credit Rudy with starting with my alcoholism too, which I managed to get past. But the other guy was David Shaner. And David Shaner was director of the Archie Gray Foundation for a while, and he made pots. Then he had a studio up in Bigford, and he made pots. And I think he's one of the best, if not the best, functional potter of the 20th century. And so I wanted to grow up to be David Shaner, and so did Josh DeWeese, and so did Kurt Weiser, and so did a whole generation of us wanted to be David Shaner. You know, Pete Volkus would come by here, by the way, and visit, and you know, other people would come by, and Pete would come by and fish and drink with Rudy. And none of us actually wanted to be Pete. We wanted to be David. So the first 20 years I was in clay, I made pots. And I made functional pots, content reduction, porcelain and stoneware. But they were always really decorated like this, because I was always a painter. And then I developed this style of painting with glazes. And this is content reduction. This is porcelain, high fire reduction. Every color you see there is a different glaze. And so, you know, it was not unusual for me to have 20, 30 different glazes around the studio at one time. So I wanted bigger imagery, bigger paintings than I could throw. So I started doing tile. And this is like this. But I quickly went on to bigger. And this is one of 2 pieces of public art I've done in my life. I don't usually I do a lot of commissions, but I hate public art because I'm not much of a hoop jumper and a committee goer. So I'm fine with dealing with clients, but I don't want to do that. And this is content reduction. And then, so I moved, I couldn't make a living in Seattle, so I moved here in Missoula, so I moved to Seattle because Pottery Northwest was there and Pike Place Market was there. The first 6 years we lived there, my wife sold my pots off the day tables at the public market, and I made pots at Pottery Northwest. And I was there for 6 years, and then I moved out to a rented studio for about 10 years, and then I got evicted from there, and I had to switch to all electric. This is Cone 5. Oxidation electrified. So I changed all my glazes to mid-range. And so I would do commissions that way. But I can only really paint landscapes in that style. There's probably 40 different glazes on that piece there. This is 5 by 10 feet overall, which is a very comfortable size for me to work in, like 50 square feet. It's big enough to, I can actually do something, but not so big as to be intimidating. So I don't do very much of this anymore because there's not that much demand for it. But if I could have made a living doing nothing but this, I would have. But I can't. So I took up China painting. And you gotta make a lot of glaze tests to do that. I decided to take a picture of glaze tests one day, and I just sort of took some of the glazes that happened to be around the studio that day and took this picture. But this is China paint. And I got into China paint because I decided if I was going to make a living as a tile artist, I would have to do anything anybody wanted. Couldn't just be landscapes in that one style. I was going to have to do any kind of imagery, and that was too limiting. I needed to be able to do finer detail, and I needed more control over colors, and I needed a medium that I could work on commercial tile with, so I didn't actually have to make all of the tile. So these people brought me a list of all the birds they'd seen on their property. And so a lot of times the walls I work on there, you know, the whole wall is tile, but only half of it has painting on it. So the backgrounds all need to be matched. I need to be able to mix and match the painted and the unpainted ones. So I like China paint because you can do almost any style with it. Almost anything you can do with any form of paint or ink, you can make China paint do it. And so I didn't make this dinnerware, I just matched it. And I silkscreen printed the grids and hand painted the flowers. And so I can work with pretty much any style you want. And my approach to making art is all about making marks. And the difference between one style and another is just a different mark. And you learn the rules of a style like this and put the right mark in the right place, and you can work in that style. Here's another one. You just get a different tool, learn how to hold it right, learn the rules, and you can paint like this. Or like that. Different tool, different style, different marks. But, you know, and I don't have there's not a lot of intellectual content in my art. There never has been. And I don't think about art that way. Like, I don't process my emotions or express my opinions through my art. That comes other ways. But mine's all about making art, or making marks, and making a living. So it's all different kinds. This is done with a lettering pen, and had 35 different quotes on it. One of the quotes on this one, by the way, is "Quid Latine dictum sit autem videtur," which is Latin for "everything sounds better in Latin." So I love commissions like this. Back before the recession, I was doing 35 to 60 commissions a year. It was like cranking these out like one a week. And of any style you want. And so what I really like is when somebody like throws me some real weird curve. And so this one was really weird. I didn't draw it at Central Image. That was drawn by another artist. They're a friend of the client. And so I reproduced hers. And then she wanted, it's a sea monster. So with the letter C. So everything in the picture starts with the letter C. And she was really into word games. So she wanted 2 word games for the border, one of which was a calendar that starts with New Year's and goes all the way around to Kwanzaa. And it's all holidays and anniversaries and birthdays and whatnot in their family. And then she wanted a real word game for the inner border that had something to do with the letter C. And that's what she told me. That's the parameters that I got from her. And so you see the green C's there, and they have a word in black in there. Well, the word in black is a word, but it makes another word with the C. So that was the word game. And this is the kind of thing I really love. This is a map of Martha's Vineyard. It's in the back of the shower, and then the guy's cabin on Martha's Vineyard. This is Neolithic cave painting. This woman said she wanted that image, and she brought me that image, which is a very famous piece of rock art from South Africa. And she wanted a story that went all the way around her walk-in shower. So it's a continuous, like, graphic novel. And some of the handprints are hers and some of them are mine. And so that's the kind of thing I like to do with my clients. And there's some more cave painting. But most of what I paint with China paint is fairly representational. I do a lot of food. Oops. These people, oops, back. Okay. So these people just brought me a list of fish and said, we're divers. It has to be accurate, Hawaiian fish only. So you got it. There's the turtle. There's a close-up of the turtle. Those are 6-inch tiles. So it gives you an idea how big that is. The turtle's about this big. And so the China paint is fired multiple times. Almost always fired multiple times. And so the upper left picture, that's what it looked like before it was fired the first time. And then the upper right is what that looked like when it came out of the kiln. And you can see it changes very little. Its China paint is more, it looks almost exactly the same when it goes in as it does when it comes out. And then the lower left, that's the second coat fired, and the lower right, that's the third coat fired. And these people said, we want an Amazon rainforest. No snakes, no bats, keep it under $2,500. You got it. This is the biggest one I've ever done. It's 13 by 40 feet. And I loved it. I wished it was bigger. One of the things Rudy told me one time, and Rudy did a lot of murals, by the way. You know, most people don't realize that he did a lot of murals. But he said one time, he's like, oh, you never say you can't do it. It's like, if you want to do it, say you'll do it. We'll figure out how to do it later. Oh, you want to hear a great Rudy story? The biggest one Rudy ever made is 15 feet high and 90 feet long. And it's in a bank in downtown Helena. And he made it while he was at the Brave Foundation. It was made on the brick-making machinery, right? And carved out and whatnot. So it's structural. It's like, it's 9 inches thick, right? And it's actually structural in the building. Well, they built this building in the late 50s. They would like to tear it down and rebuild it, but they don't know what to do with the mural because the mural is worth more than the building. No one knows what the mural's worth, right? Because it's one-of-a-kind Rudy audio, and it's the biggest thing he ever made. You know, it's worth millions, probably, you know. So anyway, so there's some orcas in the bottom of your pool. That's the Teton River over in eastern Montana. Not really here. And this is 3 walls of a walk-in shower. It's 5 feet by 5 feet by 10 feet. This is the second biggest one I've ever done. This lady had a single-spaced page-and-a-half list of creatures and things that had to be in the picture, including a barnacle-encrusted Rainier beer bottle. So, and you can't really see it in photos. You actually, I have a video of it that's like panning around. It's really, I need virtual reality is what I need, you know. But it's designed so that everything looks like the light is coming from the window. You know, like everything is shaded so that it looks like the light is coming from the window. So when you stand inside this thing, it looks three-dimensional. So this is my favorite kind of thing to do. This is a church in California, and the kids some of them are my relatives and some of them are kids in their congregation. So it got me kind of interested in doing portraits. This is just a little hang-on-the-wall kind of piece. I extruded the borders, and the rest of it's all commercial tile. And these are what I call rescued pots. They're secondhand china. You know, get them from a secondhand shop and china paint on them. This is a really good thing to practice china painting on. And I like painting on them because if I don't like them, I can just take them back. Back to the secondhand store. water-soluble colored pencil drawing, and Ruth bought me these to make better proposal drawings, which I do use them for, but I got really into them and I made a lot of drawings with them, and even had a show of them, but they didn't sell very well. And she tells me it's a character flaw of mine that I care so much whether people buy my art or not. But I've been making art for money for so long, I just cannot get myself to keep making something that doesn't sell. I lose interest. If it doesn't sell, I lose interest. So I've switched to paint. I've switched to acrylic paint. And I'm back to my painting roots. And so I make about a third of my year's income these days off of painting, paintings. And it's a nice complement to the China paint. They go together really well. And occasionally I get to paint on walls too. You know, it's pretty much the same thing. So this is a little bit of history of China paint. And I'm going to go into a little more detail here because this is a ceramics class that I did this morning. This is what was happening in ceramics before China paint was invented. And right around 1000 AD, the Sung Dynasty, Northern Sung Dynasty potters figured out how to build a kiln that went up the side of the hill so they could get high enough temperature to make stoneware. And they lost, what they were doing before that was these low temperature lead blazes, the red, yellow, and green low fire earthenware blazes. Well, they couldn't use those anymore. And so they got the idea, the only color they knew how to make was blue. And the only way they knew how to make it was to do it under the glaze. So they did this blue and white on porcelain. And we think they got the idea for mixing up something different and putting it on top in another firing from the Middle East, from this, like Iran. That's a low fire pot with overglaze on it. And the plate, the blue and white plate looks really Middle Eastern because the cobalt was all coming from Afghanistan. And so were a lot of the guys who were working in the Chinese factories. They were from Afghanistan too. And so that idea sort of came with them. Well, the Chinese figured out how to make red, yellow, and blue, or red, yellow, and green by adapting their low fire glazes. And they put them on top, and they got this, which is what's known as 5-color: white, blue, red, yellow, and green. And they developed a few other colors in this famille vert system. But when they finally figured out how to make porcelain in Europe, all these guys who had been mixing stuff together and melting it in kilns for 700 years, trying to make gold and porcelain, they had already come up with all of this colored stuff that they didn't know what to do with. And that's this famille rose system. These are colors that are based on gold. And so very soon after that, the Japanese figured out how to make porcelain and how to do overglazes. And these are Japanese porcelain factories. And a lot of potters are into Japanese pots, and they're usually into Bizen, shigaraki, tamba, that kind of stuff, the really rough, crude stuff. Well, these are the Japanese pots I like. And my favorites are Nabeshima, because they're that little dish down there, that Nabeshima pot, and that famille rose and famille vert plates, they're only about this big. Those tiny, those intricate plates are only about that big. And they're actually in the Seattle Art Museum, if you want to go see them there. But the Nabeshima pots were one of a kind. There are no two alike. This is the first potter whose name was known. Everybody before that was just an anonymous craftsman. So this is, Meissen was where they figured out how to make porcelain in Europe. And this guy named Bolker, who's the guy who made pots on the left there, is the guy who figured it out. And it was kind of a state secret, but within 50 years, everybody all over Europe knew how to make it. These are German porcelain factories. And this is the Sèvres factory, which is the other great porcelain factory of the world. And you know, this kind of stuff is not really in style very much anymore. It's still influencing a few people, like Amanda. but you know, it's not really in style. But you know, I defy you to make that stuff. You know, it is just incredibly complicated to make. But the Sam factory, they had the first ceramic museum in the world. They had the first ceramic school in the world. They were using cones before Seeger standardized them. They invented the color wheel. The painters at the Sam factory invented the color wheel. So, you know, they figured out how to make all those high-fire glazes like Temuku and Celadon and whatnot in really small kilns, which nobody knew how to do that except in really huge kilns before they figured it out. If you slip cast, there's a mathematical formula that tells you how much of everything you need. Is known as Brodnart's formula. Brodnart was the first director of the Sam factory. So these two guys were the second and third directors of the Sam factory, and Harold was a chemist. And he came up with almost all the colors, the overglazed colors that we know of today. He invented them within about 20 years after they figured out how to make porcelain in Europe. And Condor is the guy who invented the ceramic figurine. And so all of you guys who are making human figures, you know, this is the guy. This is the guy who first made those. And then this is English. And England didn't have a royal porcelain factory like most places did. It was more for the middle class. And then the Industrial Revolution comes along, and you know, everything gets mechanized, and so this becomes a hobby. And particularly in the United States, this becomes an incredibly popular hobby. And this is the guy. This is the man. This is the Peter Volkas, the Dale Chihuly of China paint, Franz Bischoff. And there's still people who are trying to paint like that. This is what's known as the American style. Really soft, no outlines, there's shaded backgrounds like that. The wiped out highlights, that's the American style. And this is the other really famous guy, and this is the other third of the really famous guys. So, World War I, the Depression, and World War II just almost completely killed off China painting. But after World War II, when women quit their factory jobs and went home to have babies and bigger houses with more electricity, and they invented the top-loading octagonal kiln, China paint had this revival. And it was pretty much still the American style. And these are some of the ladies from the 50s and 60s who were revival. These ladies are all gone, and their first generation of students are almost all gone now. These two ladies are still alive, but not painting anymore. Rosemary Rademacher calls her, she's on a discussion list for China painters on the internet. You can actually talk to Rosie. Rosie the Rabble-Rouser, she calls herself. You know the very famous rock painting, Nude Descending a Staircase? Well, she did a variation on that called Nun Descending an Escalator. Very much like that, but not quite. So she was really famous in China painting circles because she was the China paint advisor to Judy Chicago for the Good Party. This is one of the most influential pieces of the 70s, and probably the most influential piece in feminist art, if there is such a thing. And she thought it was going to revive China painting, and it turned out not to, because the China painters are incredibly conservative. And imagery like the goddess imagery really offended them. And they wanted nothing to do with Judy Chicago. So I called her up. I called up Judy Chicago when I was writing a book. I said, I need a picture of the dinner party for it. And she said, well, you know, the piece didn't revive China painting like I thought it was, but from what sounds like what you're writing here, this might do it. And so she sent me, I think, 8 images and did not charge me for them. She normally charges like $200 to reproduce an image of hers. She sent me 8 of them and said, You just take these. Publishers make these more. But that was nice for so this is funk art. And when I first got into making ceramics in the late 60s, this is what was really in style. And it happened mostly on the West Coast and only in ceramics. And it was all about making jokes. And so I never actually wanted to make that stuff either, but there were people here who were making funk art at that time. And boy, are they fun to hang out with. You know, people who make jokes for a living are really fun to hang out with. So some of this is China paint, but not much. This is one of the few people who always used a lot of China paint and overlays kind of stuff. And this is Howard Kotler. This is typical funk art. You know, this is a joke. This one's called Lookalikes. And he had a whole series of these things that were based on those commercial decals and put on commercial plates. And there was like huge controversy about whether this was legitimate or not, whether this was art, whether this was, you know, should we hang him or not, you know, which he loved, actually. This is one of the few high-temperature production potters, you know, the real stars of 20th century ceramics who did overglazes. And it shows you how many I went to Okinawa every summer to make these pots and do this traditional overlays on the red, yellow, and green overlays. So now we're going to go into these are some contemporary China painters. These are some of the big names these days in China painting. And a lot of it is still this, you know, flowers on plates kind of things. These are some of the few guys in China painting. I went to a China paint convention, sort of like Ansika, but about 1/5 the size. And there were about 1,000 people. I was one of 8 guys. I was one of the youngest people of either gender. I was the only one with facial hair. And 4 of the other guys were gay. So I really stood out. Not to mention, you know, what I was actually painting and how I was using the China paint. And, you know, I was using all water-based mediums. They're all using oil. I'm breaking all the rules. And, you know, anyway, it was fun. And this has some other dimensional products on it that I'll tell you about. There's kind of fun. None of these people are making what they paint on. They're all behind each other. This is the guy these days. This is the man. Sando. He was one of the 8 guys. He's one of the gay guys. He is just amazing. These are about 11 by 14 inches. And by the way, you can buy these tiles. These 11 by 14. They make them up to 16 by 20. They're about not quite a quarter of an inch thick. And they're real translucent porcelain, shiny glaze on them. You buy them from China paint suppliers. A lot of people doing portraits. And you can see, you know, if you've tried painting human figures with underglazes or glazes, you know how frustrating this is. You know, you just can't get that kind of shading and subtlety in any other ceramic medium. This Becky Soroka's, this is a really amazing piece. It's called Katie Glowing Glitter. And there's this iridescent kind of overglazed paint, sort of like China paint, that she put on with a spatter brush. If you see this piece in real life, it really looks like she has taken a handful of glitter into it like that. It really looks like glowing glitter. These are all done with pens. This is a lettering pen, like a steel dip in the ink, old-fashioned lettering pen, which is another thing you can do with China paint. This is Kurt Weiser, and Kurt is he's the guy that most people know about in the clay world who does China paint. When I started writing my book, people said, "Oh, that's that stuff that Kurt Weiser uses, right?" It's like, yeah, this is stuff that Kurt Weiser uses. Jesus at Arizona State, He was the director over at the Archie Bring Foundation for a while. Those are Kurt's. Now, Kurt and I, neither one of us have ever had a lesson in China painting, so don't be intimidated about this. If you can paint, you can do this. This is easy. And then these are some more people who make their own work and are, they're potters and clay artists who are using China paint. And she trained in the Meissen factory, so this is very traditional. The line work is all done with a pen. And by the way, you can do this. It's powder in a medium, right? So you can actually put any powdered medium through your you can use Content glaze if you want. You mix it up. You can use mason stain. You can use underglaze. You can use anything, and put it on with that kind of a pen and get that kind of line. So some people use, like this is glaze, underglaze, glaze, overglaze, luster, some of everything on both of those. So is that. This woman also worked in the Meissen factory. These are big. They're about like that. And they're real, like the Meissen figurine tradition, but a little bit different action going on in these than there was in 18th century Germany. And this lady is probably the most well-known international China painter. She's from, I think, Latvia. She's amazing. And an awful lot of that is done with a pen, just little dots. It would drive me nuts. Jason's been making this stuff for a long time, just black and white. He's recently started painting them. I think most people think Sam Chung's doing underglazes or glazes for those solid areas of color, but it's not. It's China paint. And it's a much more vivid color than you can get any other way. And this guy's gotten really, really well known. And then this is China paint. I want to teach a workshop with Roberto sometime, because he's about as different from me as you can get. He's this inner city black Puerto Rican, all about social justice and politics and whatnot. It's like, I'm an old white cowboy, and this is decals. This is these print it yourself decals, those Malaysian ones. But this has been China painted over. And these are a lot of off-the-rack decals. The full color decals are China paint. Either the commercial ones or the ones you have, like custom-made, full color, those are China paint. And you can actually make them yourself. You can print them yourself. This guy, Remus, prints his own. The lettering and the women, he printed those decals. And the other ones are antique decals. And there's a little bit of everything on this. There's underglaze, overglaze, decals, luster, China paint, a little bit of everything on those. And on the left there, or on the far right, those are secondhand plates that he's had Norman Rockwell paint decal to have. And I always said you can do anything with China paint that you can do with any form of paint or ink. And I thought I'd never seen everything until he sent me this picture. So what he does is he takes paintball cartridges and he sucks the paint out of them with a hypodermic paint and he re-injects them with liquid China paint. And then he shoots these plates with a paintball gun. Isn't that fun? This guy China paints his raccoon. This is some wood fire and some soda fire work that's been painted on top of with China paint. This is a second-hand plate that's been painted. This is part of Charlie's Disaster series. There's one for the Titanic and one for the Berg, and then he scorches them with a blowtorch. That's the black is just holding a blowtorch on these plates. He's a very strange guy. This is only scratches the surface of how weird Charlie Craft is. You should look this guy up and Google this guy. You will not believe some of the stuff he does. This one is really interesting. These were all secondhand plates as well. This is called The Last Supper, and each plate depicts the last meal of a death row inmate. So she's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. She's still doing it. And I don't know why more people don't do China paint on tile, because it's, you know. And by the way, the green tiles that look like relief, they're not. They're flat. They're silkscreen printed to look like they're relief. And the texture in the upper part of that blue plate is sandblasted through the China paint.
Really?
How do you do that?
How do you do that? The same way you sandblast anything else. You know, I think you put a resist of some kind on there. This guy mixes his China paint up really thick with gum arabic and drives it with a heat gun so it just peels. And he lets it get to right where he wants it to stop peeling and stops there, and then he fires it and it comes out of kiln just like that. So, you know, he intended for it to look like that. This is a lot of Roman gold, which is something I'll talk a little bit more about a little bit later. And so from the next section here is part of a slideshow that I did with a woman named Marcy Blattenberger, who's a traditional China painter and owns a list on the internet called Porcelain Painters International Online. And if you're familiar with the Potters online group, Clay Art, you guys all familiar with Clay Art? It's just like that. It's email, you know, it's an email message board, basically. And she owns it, and was very helpful to me in writing my book. And so she put together this slideshow of various techniques and substances that China painters use that potters have. And whenever I've done a workshop where there are both traditional China painters and potters in the group, it's really fun because both groups kind of go, "You got what? You can do what? Where did you? You know, how did you? You know, they're both really amazed at what the other group can do." The dry grounding is a technique for getting these really, really solid colors in one fire. It's incredibly difficult to do, and almost nobody does it anymore. Usually you have to build this up in layers to get that kind of color. These are, they make a matte version of China paint too. They make a shiny version and a matte version. And a lot of China painters like to use the matte version and work on vitrified but unglazed pots they wear. It's a really soft kind of look to it. You guys, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with liquid bright gold. The red on the Johanna de Main piece, by the way, is also luster. It's red luster. And she uses a vinyl cutter to cut those patterns out. And then this is, the teapot's really interesting. There's some matte glaze and some shiny glaze on there, and then liquid bright gold put over the whole thing. And you can see the difference in the texture. And these are all colored lusters. This is different kinds of lusters. This is more lusters. This is, you pour these colored lusters into a bucket of water, and it just floats on the water. And then you take the piece and just lift it up through the water, and it sticks to the surface of your piece. So this burnished gold, this is a different form of gold than your liquid bright gold. And it's much more lustrous and much more durable. It's much richer looking kind of gold. It's usually put on what's known as raised paste. And you've all seen, actually I'm going to go ahead one here, like that Royal Vienna piece. You've all seen that kind of stuff, right? It's raised and it has gold. Well, the raised stuff was not part of the clay. It was put on after the glaze fire and fired on, and then this gold was fired on top of that. So this lady is the real master of this. In the upper picture there, you can see her dribbling this yellow paste on with a brush. And then she fires that, and it comes out of the kiln, it's kind of gold, and now she's painting this black stuff on, and the gold comes in like a little pat, like butter, and you put turpentine in it, and then you put that on there, and then you fire it, and it comes out like the dull gold in the bottom of the bottom picture, and then you burnish it with this burnishing sand. It is incredible, time-consuming and picky thing to do. And I asked her, and she's done this plate. She's done all the painting of this plate before all this, and she's probably fired that plate 8 or 9 times to get the bearings on there. Okay. So I asked her how long it took her to make that plate. She said about 4 months of working pretty much full time on that one plate.
Don't drop it.
Yeah. Well, she will never sell this plate, and she doesn't intend to sell this plate. What she's going to do is go around for the rest of her life and teach this with that plate. So, and then, you know, you're not even done after you fire the gold on. You can still etch it, and, you know, you can etch it, you can scratch into it, you can do all kinds of things. And then there are these metallic paints, which are not luster and not Roman gold. There are powders that mix up with it, you can paint them on just like China paint, and they come out sort of metallic color. And these are interference colors. These are like iridescent colors that you just, they're a powder, mix them with, you put them over top of your painting, and they come out like iridescent. These are enamels. These are a structural kind of paste, and so you can feel these little dots. It sort of feels like slip trailing, and then there are other dimensional products called structure pastes, and I think the leaves that have the dimensions on there, I think what they have done is dip them in this or paint them with this dimensional stuff and stick them on the pots and fire them on and then luster them. I think that's what they've done. But this is Marcy Glattenberg. You notice one of the ingredients is cat hair. So she's got this, you know, paint that's sticky because it's got like an oil medium, and she just dumps cat hair onto it, and it kind of gathers into this pattern. And this is non-ping powder. It is another structural paste, but it's kind of translucent. And so I don't know if you know what pâté sur pâté is, but it's like slip on slip, and it anyway, it's thick and thin. Usually it was done with slip on greenware, but this is done on an already fired surface, and it kind of looks the same. This is fiberglass, and they have just taken fiberglass cloth and fired it onto these pots, and then lustered over it or painted over it, and to get that cloth texture. It's like, you thought you were done when you came out of the glaze kiln, right? Oh no, there's all kinds of stuff you can do.
Hey Paul, when they're putting that fiberglass over their pieces, how, so the piece comes out, then they put the fiberglass on and then firing it again? How hot are they taking it?
What they're doing is coating the fiberglass. It has to be old-fashioned fiberglass cloth. As I understand it, they make what they call fiberglass cloth now that doesn't do this. It has to be old stuff that's really glass. And they coat it with Elmer's glue and drape it where they want so it sticks. And they usually fire it to cone 010. So much higher than China paint,
Yeah.
but not quite what you would fire your low fire glazes with. Just high enough to melt it, enough to fuse, but not enough that it'll run. Weird, huh?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. And this is, I think, the weirdest stuff of all. This incising paste and chip-off powder. Chip-off powder is this powder that you mix with a medium, and you put it where you want to do this to. You put it on an already nice area. You fire it up to cone 018. When it comes out of the kiln, it all chips off, and it takes the glaze with it. And it leaves you with this surface that looks like it's been chipped with a chisel. And then they usually gold luster over that. with those crinkly gold, looks like gold foil. That's how that was done. You know, they started with a shiny glaze plate or something. There's another one. You can see that area. So weird. Yeah, no weird. So this lady was a student of Kurt Weiser's, and unfortunately she died when she was 44, about 2 years ago. But I actually thought she was better than Kurt. And I'm not sure Kurt would argue with me. He thought she was just a genius. And this is what I think China painting should be. This kind of imagery, forms made to be painted on that have imagery that was designed to fit the forms like that. This is what I think China painting should be. She, by the way, has never had a lesson in China painting either. She just made this up too. So she told me one time she paints what she sees in her dreams. Well, yeah, this is a real tragedy that Bridget died. So this is my last slide, and I always end my slideshows with this one because all the really good stuff is here. Well, you know, the clay stuff and the China paint, it's all really fun, but this is the good stuff. This is the lady I had this room. And that's it. So I'm up for questions.
Well, that was so much information, you know, it really seemed like a little digestion moment. But why do you think that China painting hasn't taken off more?
Well,
You know, I mean, it seems like it's so versatile.
I know.
But somehow the art world hasn't quite moved into it yet.
There's this stereotype that it's little old lady pink roses. And you know, 100 years ago, if you went to school, you'd learn how to China paint. You'd learn how to make bowls, you'd learn how to make glazes, you'd learn how to throw, you'd learn how to do all this stuff, and you'd learn how to China paint. But for some reason, it fell out of favor. And I think, like I say in my book, you know, Rudy Audio, Pete Volkas, Paul Soldier, Don Reitz, those guys had a huge influence on the history of China painting because what they did was drive an entire generation away from it. And they drove them away from it because real men played with fire. Real men fired a code 10. And that was, you know, it was a very macho kind of thing. And I think that's a lot of why it fell out of favor. And now I think, you know, people don't care anymore. They don't care about macho much anymore. And it's like, look at this class. You know, there's more women here than there are men. And you know, you look at like the shows of Benfica and whatnot, and it's, you know, it's about half and half. Nobody really cares anymore. You know, and it's so that's why it's having a revival because people care more about imagery than music and that kind of stuff. So what else? Okay.
Hard to know where to start. I do have a question, Paul. A lot of that, as you're kind of going through all those different techniques at the end, there's a lot of that stuff in your book as well?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I decided I should be the one to write that book because I was the only one who knew about both glazes and glaze chemistry and all that stuff. I was about the only one that had contacts in both worlds. And it's the China painting. It's almost impossible to know what's in the chemistry of them because the recipes are all trade secrets. They're all proprietary information. And the China painters don't care. You know, they don't know what's in the paint, they don't care. But I always say that whenever I teach a China painting class for potters, they always ask the same three questions. What is it? Can I make my own? Is it food safe? And the answers to those are, it's the lowest firing form of glaze that is possible to make. And if you're into glaze chemistry, you know there's the glass former and the flux to melt it, and the stabilizer to make it work with clay. Well, there's no stabilizer in China paints because it doesn't work with clay. It works with glaze. And that portion of glaze that's usually stabilizer is taken up with more color. So like in a glaze, you're used to seeing 2 to maybe 10% coloring. And the China paints will have more like 15 to 40% colorant. And is it food safe? No, it's not. They almost all have lead in them. There are lead-free and low-lead versions, and everybody agrees they're nowhere as good as the other ones. So my attitude is use the lead ones and just use the good stuff and take the precautions. And can you make your own? Yeah, you can, but it's not really worth it. If you took a really low fire frit like 3134 and you mix maybe 3 parts frit and 1 part mason stains, you'd have something very much like China paint. But the company that I buy my China paints from when I buy them, they make like 140 different colors. So it's like and you usually buy them in little glass vials. They're about as big around as my little finger. Yeah.
What are prices like for?
If you buy them, and you won't be able to get them from any ceramic supplier. You have to buy them from China paint suppliers. And there's a list of that book. And the book's 11 years old, so some of them are a little bit out of date, but some of them are still same. But one of those little vials, most colors are $4 to $6. They go a long way because you're using very little. Some of them are actually colored with gold. Like if you, like her purple shirt, you there with purple shirt, that color. If you were going to buy a vial of China paint that color, it would be more like $20 or $25 because or your hat, that color. That would be like $20, or Julia's shirt, that color would be like $20. But the best place, actually, we were looking this morning, and when I did the other class this morning, we actually looked on the internet. Go to eBay and search for China paints, and you will see always people selling quantities of these little vials, okay? And they're generally really old. Like some of the ones we were looking at this morning are probably 50 years old. Doesn't matter. They never go bad. In fact, if they're 50 years old, they're probably better than what you can buy them now because they have more lead. Lead, below about color 1, lead is the absolute perfect ceramic material. It has everything going for it except it's like one little.
You guys need to do that here. Just everybody, just cover your ears.
Yeah. But if you see them on eBay for like $2 a vial, that's okay. $1 a vial, that's pretty good. There was one on there this morning with 200 vials for $100. Snap that up. So that's place to get.
Paul, I'm going to jump in here because Jesse's opening starts at 4, so I want to let these guys go to their opening.
Oh, sure.
For the opening. But I just thank you so much. That was so much information. It's a lot to absorb, and it was just so generous of you to share all of that with us, and it was just also great to see your work.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.